the mode of development in China in terms of energy consumption, all right? Because it consumes much more energy than other developed countries. And that's a very serious problem. And second is there are a lot of problems in terms of China's engagement in Africa. I don't think I have time to elaborate here, but I mentioned some in my speech. And the third point is that there are different responses from Africa. For example, I was in Hong Kong, I think in 2007, at another conference. There is a very strong protest from South African Union regarding China's export of textile in South Africa. Okay, then the Premier Winjabal, when visiting South Africa, he said, "All right, we can cut the ratio of the export to South Africa." Then one of the South African scholars who attended the conference I was attending, he said, "That's not an issue. It's very good for your prime minister, for your premier to cut the ratio. But when China cut the ratio, the textile from Bangladesh, from Malaysia, from Vietnam, they come. So that's our problem. We have to upgrade our textile industry." And this, and also, I think in 2005, I don't know whether some of you know, in the capital of Senegal, one day there's a demonstration against China's presence in Senegal because some, shops, some industries declined. But the next day there was a demonstration to support China's presence in Senegal because provide the cheap products and for the poor. So that's a very controversial and also different response from the African community. And for the land grab issue, I think there is a very large rumor regarding China's buying. I don't know Indian steel, but actually there's in 1998, the Sudanese government asked China to migrate 10 million Chinese, and they said you can plant land here, you can provide us with rice, and you can solve your own problem. But the Chinese government is very cautious, so declined the offer. And now still there is I think there is an article written by an Indian scholar and a Chinese scholar in English. It's called 5 Myths of China-Indian role in Africa. I think you can search from. There are 5 myths regarding this. And also for China's how it's a cooperation or exploitation. We now emphasize so-called win-win. And look at Sudan. Used to be an oil importing country, but under I think about about 15 years cooperation with China and other developing countries. Now it becomes an oil exporting country and developed a whole oil industry from exploration and production and refining. And look at Nigeria. The Shell and other Western oil company have been existing there for half a century, but still it's an oil importing country. Nigeria, such a big oil producing country, but it's still import oil. So that's a big contrast. And also, I think, again, here in the conference I mentioned in 2007, the Nigerian General Counsel in Hong Kong said in our luncheon speech, he said, we just want to do business with China, okay? Why? Because if there is any problem, we can sit down and discuss it equally. We don't have this position with Western countries. And the same thing, if you look at the Financial Times, the president of Senegal published a small article. The West should preach what they should do what they preach, or something like that. And they said we asked for financial support from World Bank, from IMF, but several years passed, and no reaction. But when I mentioned this to Hu Jintao, he said, okay, then it's done. And we imported a lot of, yes, it's cheap, the cheap textiles. Then our women set up the textile club, and they become employed. So there are some quite, really some difference between the two types of, and of course I think I have other, but I would like to leave more time for my colleagues. Oh, all right. And there are some problems, and owing to a lot of, for example, China is just recently engaged in this kind of international cooperation, and it is in the year before the 68 Chinese state-owned companies held a conference on social corporate social responsibility, and the government realized this and tried to make it more, but now the free market principle also, the government has not the full control of the companies, so that's a problem I think we are going to face. And for my view, in terms of China-African relations, more problem, better. Why I say that? Because no contact, no problem. The deeper contact and the broader contact, more problem. The key issue is that China and Africa, at least in on the government level, we each other, it's equal position, and also with the four-card frame can discuss that. So one problem settled, the cooperation further step. Thank you.
I'll begin with Professor Wen's question about way out. I think we need ways out of two sets of things. One is how do we get out of the specific of a globalized, militarized security system that, as I tried to say in the presentation, but explain more fully in my paper, that is not just gendered, but also ethnicized, etc. Very regional, specific. I think you can talk about these issues as they occur in places like Colombia, Cambodia, the U.S.-Mexico border. Some of these issues are very similar. And many people have argued very convincingly the relationship between militarism and capitalism being two sides of the same coin. That global capitalism really is almost impossible to have without military sort of securing markets, etc. So that's one, how do we think about way out of that kind of a globalized security system? And here, it's also important to take into account that institutions that have been created to help demilitarize and demobilize, like the UN, for example, have also been perpetrators of violence, particularly against women, and have been involved in trafficking and all those kinds of things. So there's that set of problems that we really need to think about. And I would like us to consider what Jorge Santiago talked about yesterday about his idea about autonomy and acting locally and networking globally. And when Professor Lee mentioned oil production in Nigeria, I think you can have a discussion at the global level about that oil production, but when you bring it to the local level and see how that oil is produced and how it impacts women's livelihoods, local livelihoods. When I was in the Niger Delta this summer, the women's groups we met with said, we wished oil had never been discovered. Right? So how do we have that kind of global conversation that is theoretical, abstract, and putting together with the local impacts? And I think that's the second place we need to figure out a way out of. The kind of parallel conversations that seem to happen, and I think has happened here as well, where certain groups of people are talking about certain sets of things as if they're not connected. And a lot of the practical projects that have been discussed, right, seem separate from a lot of the abstract theorization that's happened. So the other place that we need to get out of, I think, are these parallel conversations. And how do we, put the grand theories, the macro theories, the global theories together with the practical impacts that ordinary people are facing here in China, in the countries I discussed, and all the other countries that have been discussed. And also in that context, thinking about kind of a northernization of the South and a southernization of the North, and looking at those processes. And how do we examine those as well as we continue to have the dialogues?
I hope I'll be able to cover at least some of the questions I've got, and these are for sure because of lack of time I have. Anyway, about the security issue. I think most of you do not know exactly the significance of Egypt in this region. Egypt is a central country in this region from the point of view of the geostrategic plans of the United States. It's not any country. It's not Tunisia. It's not Yemen. And this is something very special. And I can talk hours about this, but I'm just mentioning it now. And therefore, I think the United States have a very special policy towards Egypt, not exactly the same like towards other countries of the region. Because of that, Egypt is playing the keystone role in these strategic plans, especially the military ones of them. Therefore, the United States would tolerate whatever movement or change could happen in any other country of the region, but not in Egypt. And I can mention some about some information about the policies of the United States towards this. About the elections, rather question. I think I have prognosed the result of the becoming elections at least half a year ago. Half a year ago, I have exactly said how much percent every political power will get in these elections, and although we still did not have the election done yet, because they will continue until the next month at least, but the results now are more or less clear. We shall have about 40% of the Islamic bloc and about 30% of the Mubarak bloc and about perhaps 20% or 15% of the liberal conservative party spectrum, and perhaps 8 or 7% for the nationalists, and the left would gain between 3 and 4% maximum. And then I could come now to the question of Ibrima. If the left was ready for such a movement or not, I say, yes, we were ready according to the circumstances we had. And the only proof I can get for that is